We're here at 111 East Maple Street. If we could please stand for the invocation from Muriel Ludeman. Muriel, come forward. Thank you, Muriel.
Thank you. Our Father God, you alone are worthy of all our praise and honor for your great, steadfast, loving kindness that is everlasting. You are love, and it is that love that set in us the Holy Spirit of Christ, which is our very breath of life. Thank you for waking us all up this morning and placing us here in this city, in this council chamber together at the most important time of all mankind to do your business for your people. May our hearts be tuned to hear the voice of your Spirit, the fount of all truth, all knowledge, wisdom, and power, which is made available to us for our deliberations. May we find great joy in the process of creative problem solving in behalf of our community. You alone know how much of that we need to do. May your grace, love, and mercy and good humor hold sway in our mayor, city manager, council members, and citizens during our time together tonight. May we do what is right and good in your eyes, for Father, you know what's best for us. In the beloved name of Jesus Christ, your Son, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Spheres.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Rowland.
Here. Could I entertain a motion to move the presentation of the resolution to the Employee of the Month right now after the roll call before citizens' request?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll do that right now so we can have the presentation to Jacob Haygood. And where is Jacob? All right, Jacob. All right. Will you do that or will I do that? Okay.
Bill number 22-741, a resolution recognizing Jacob Haygood, Treatment Plant Operator 2 with the Municipal Services Department as the Employee of the Month for May 2022. And whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects the Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service. And whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Jacob Haygood, Treatment Plant Operator 2 with the Municipal Services Department as the Employee of the Month for May 2022.
Come on up, Jacob, and we'll get a moment for a photo. Somebody always tells me to suck and tuck. Okay.
And it'll be a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you. We'll need a motion to approve the Employee of the Month.
Moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. And it will be a roll call vote. So, Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Spheres.
Here. Yes. Sorry. I'm here and yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Can I give 2 yeses for my friend? I'm just glad you're here and it worked out. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Next thing is, if I'm correct, citizens' request. Is that true? All right. I just have something to give us some framework on this, and just forgive me for one moment. I've got some guidance on this. And of course, my notes got, here we go. So this one tonight for comments from folks, these are kind of the rules that we follow in order to have a discussion tonight with everyone here. And so according to section 14-700-09-C, specifies only new evidence that was not presented at the Planning Commission's public hearing is, if such evidence was not reasonably available at that time. So what we're doing is we're asking those folks who come up is please not restate, comments or ideas that were presented earlier. Okay, please have new evidence. New evidence proposed to be presented to the City Council at its hearings must be submitted in writing, and we haven't had any of those, so we can pass that moment. Any member of this is bullet point number 2. Any member of the public wishing to speak on this matter should use citizen request to speak in the portion of the agenda, and they have done that, and we've got a list. And how many people do we have so far signed up?
We have 8 who've signed up in advance.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Eight who signed up at the meeting.
So it would be 16 total then, if I can do the math on top of my head. Perfect. So the citizen request forms have been turned down. We'll have 16 folks speak this evening. Now, we will also need a motion to suspend the rules for the council to allow non-citizens to speak. So I would so move to have, or I would ask for a motion on that if I could, please.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Those, and does it need a roll call or a? Okay. Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Fierce?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you all. Then we will proceed to the listing. Madam City Clerk, just a question of clarification. Do we go by the list we have here, and then you'll go by the other list here? Okay, very, very good. So that's excellent. Okay, so the very first the very first person to speak this evening is Teresa Tweedy, in regarding to Northpointe. You have spoken about this before, Teresa, so you're given 3 minutes. And thank you for coming forward. And your time will not start until you're ready.
That's right.
Teresa, I love folks with a sense of humor. Thank you for doing that. And make sure you bring the microphone to a comfortable
Yes,
level.
I had stood on my tiptoes last time.
It won't come down for you?
No, but I can just stand on my tiptoes.
Meg is going to help you out. Thank you, Meg.
Oh. Thank you.
It is okay, Teresa. We're all friends.
Mayor Rowland, council members, and clerk. Thank you for letting me speak. Northpointe is a flawed deal. It not only denies the city and state needed taxes, but saddles the city with new infrastructure, constant road repairs, and an increase in traffic all the way to 36,600, and that's from their very own traffic impact study. Like Bass Pro, approved by planning, approved for incentives, promoted by the chamber, all the while the city awash with abandoned property and needed road work that's not done. This is a bad deal. The public was vehemently against Van Trust, and many of us feel that this was pushed on us quietly behind closed doors without the benefit of proper advertising of their meetings. For example, not a single sign at their last public meeting pointing the way to where the meeting was, except inside the building. We know you all don't want another Van Trust angry group, but we felt like this was pushed on us, done right before an election, and we did not have the time to get the word out. But I want you to know that over 1,000 people did sign a petition against this. If we'd have had more time and more context on this, we would have come up with a much bigger amount. But these 1,000 people will not forget who voted for this nightmare. We respectfully ask you vote no.
Thank you, Teresa. Robert Brackenberry, is that correct? Thank you, Robert. Proceed when you're ready.
Let me get this up here. Is that okay?
Actually, you can actually move it just right from the end.
Huh?
Almost, there you go, perfect.
All
You've got
right.
it. Thank you, Robert.
Okay, like the mayor said, my name's Robert Brackenbury. I live at 3111 Arrowhead Drive, and that's just up our demise from this proposed project. We're influential neighbors. There's been larger crowds, and I believe there would have been much larger crowds if the public was generally aware of this project. And we found in working with the petitions that most people had no idea what was going on in the neighborhood that's affected. And I'm afraid there may be a bit of a backlash when they start having the problems with it on down the road, but that's crystal ball material. I think in the end, we're all voters. We're going to recall this. We're not going to move on from it. We're going to remember who voted for our interests and who stood against us. And I really feel that this is going to adversely affect our daily lives, the people that live close around there. Like Terry said, the semi-traffic is going to be abusive. We've heard that the voters and taxpayers are going to be responsible for the maintenance of Jackson Drive and Little Blue Parkway. And if you've driven on that road, it's already showing a little bit of wear and tear, and it's relatively new. It's got curves in it. I used to drive a semi-truck. It's got curves in it that will be difficult for the trucks to negotiate side by side with cars, and trucks entering that thoroughfare from parking lots are going to have trouble getting in and out. There's going to be a lot more modifications than are advertised in the long run.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. I don't know. I think we'd be better served to support the quality retail that we already have, Independence Center and some of the businesses that are closing on 39th Street that are within a couple miles of this proposed project, and avoid the additional taxes and traffic control that's going to have to be installed at the intersections of Jackson Drive and Little Blue Parkway. And just basically ask you folks to help us protect our property and its value and our way of life as it is now without a radical change such as this. I think additional residential in that area and maybe some nice parks and stuff like that would be really appropriate. It's a beautiful area and a little bit beautiful.
And you've got 10 seconds, my friend.
I'm out.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
my
your
friend.
attention.
Thank you, Robert. And next is Terry, and I do not want to mess up your name, Terry. I'm going to say Holflicker. That's how I was going to pronounce it, but I had
Sure
such
you were.
hesitancy. Yeah, sure. Well, Terry, thank you for your kindness and my struggling with how to. So Terry Holflicker, did I say it correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir, you did.
Terry, glad to have you here, and start when you're ready.
Okay,
And
thank
you
you.
actually have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
You bet.
City Council, Mayor Rowland, City Clerk, my name is Terry Holflicker, and I live at 1630 North State Route 7, Independence, Missouri. The Little Blue Valley Development, Independence, Missouri, is the title of a Facebook group which a number of concerned citizens belong to. Recently, there has been some strong attempts to convince citizens of the value of the Northpointe project. I can't begin to claim I've understood everything I've read in this group, at meetings I've attended, or what the research I've done myself. And basically, I'm still learning what the difference between a PUD and a SID is, and don't ask me to explain those. This past week, I read a Facebook post by the Independence Chamber of Commerce touting that the city has no financial risk as the project is being entirely funded by the developer. And that was really confusing to me. Doesn't an 85% tax abatement qualify as a cost to the city? I read that Northpointe is going to put $450,000 into the Little Blue Parkway account for mill and overlay improvements. And if the improvements are not repaired by December 2023, Northpointe will make the repairs and ask for the city to reimburse. So that's confusing for me. Who is paying for the Bly Road upgrade? My understanding is that it's a necessity as Bly is considered a collector road. What taxes are associated with the SID? Residents have been told that this is being done for us due to the request for the higher paying bringing employment to Independence. But I'm not convinced that light industrial and warehouse employment equals 5,000 good paying jobs. I've heard it said that Independence is tired of being known as a bedroom community. I've lived in Independence for 22 years and in Jackson County since 1976, and I've never considered Independence a bedroom community. The infrastructure and access to I-70, 470, 210, and 435 make Independence quick and easy access to anywhere in the metropolitan area. However, today's lifestyles are not the same as they were decades ago. Neither is employment, as many more and more people are working from home. And by the way, I think we've had great opportunities, employment opportunities in Independence. Currently, we have Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, the Metropolitan Community College, Centerpoint, Unilever, even Bass Pro. My husband retired from Lake City after 45 years. I worked there for 13, and they're still hiring. I've seen it on TV. NIMBY, not in my backyard, has been thrown around as a perspective to shame some of us. I'm not ashamed. Our mindset has changed in recent years. We are encouraged to restore and protect our lands and natural resources. Last week, we celebrated 50-plus years of Earth Day and 150 years of Arbor Day. The area planned for warehouses is nature's gift to Independence. And it's all of our backyard, and it's a gift. Are we going to be happy destroying it? Any city can have a warehouse district, but not any city can have a natural resource gift that we have just given to us.
You have 1 minute.
Conserving natural resources is vital to our existence and our life experience. According to Jackson County Parks and Rec's website, almost 100 years ago, the original leader of Independence, Harry Truman,
as a presiding judge of Jackson County Court, created the first Parks Department, County Parks Department. His vision included a series of lakes and recreational parks. I feel certain he would be proud to see what he initiated so long ago has become. However, I'm not confident President Truman would risk the beauty of what we have naturally here in East Independence for a warehouse district. Is this what we want to leave as our legacy? Count me out. My vote's no. Thank you.
If I could, I did mention this earlier. If we can refrain from applause, there will be speakers pro and con, and if we can maintain decorum in that regard, and that was my mistake for not bringing that up earlier, so please forgive me for my mistake. All right, thank you. Next up is Tom Lesnick. Tom, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Tom Lesnick. I reside at 17612 East 48th Terrace Court South here in Independence. During the day, I work for the Independence Chamber of Commerce, serving as their president and CEO. Their office is at 210 West Truman Road. Tonight, I speak on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and our board of directors in my capacity in support of the Eastgate Commerce Center project and the development being proposed by Northpointe. As you consider approvals for this project, I'd like to share with you some data that I don't think you've heard before, either in this council chamber or in front of planning and zoning. And I hope you'll take it into consideration, not only in your decision tonight, but in future decisions involving economic development projects. Latest figures from the Missouri Economic Research and Information Center, which is called MERIC with the Missouri Department of Economic Development, show that as a state, our current unemployment rate is 3.7% statewide. However, in Independence, our rate for the same month was 6.5%. We're almost double what the state rate is during a time when economic growth is substantial in the state of Missouri. The largest single sector employment base in Independence is service and retail. And just about every store you go by has help wanted signs in the window and out in the yards looking for people to help. And we all need and want these types of businesses, but the jobs they produce are certainly not ones we want to build our economy around. And that's where the Northpointe project separates itself. The final thing I want to mention is census figures from 2020. Did you know 31% of all Independence households have less than $35,000 in household income? Even more alarming is that 11% of our households, which is almost 5,400, have a household income of less than $15,000. People in those situations don't come to council meetings. They don't contact their council representatives because their hands are full trying to keep food, keep a shelter over their head, keep the lights on. Rarely does an opportunity like this come along. Potential for Eastgate Commerce Center is incredible, and it doesn't matter whether it's 50 jobs, 500, or 5,000 jobs. Every new job that this development can offer gives our most vulnerable families an opportunity to improve their lives. This is your opportunity to make a difference, and I encourage you to support this project tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lesnick. Okay. Next up is Doug Cowan. Oh, you're the best. Thank you. And Mr. Cowan, you have 5 minutes, and proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Doug Cowan. I reside at 807 South Main Street in Independence, and I've had the good fortune to call Independence my home for nearly 40 years and to raise my children here. I'm here tonight representing Community Services League, where I serve as president and CEO of the organization. We own 2 buildings in Independence and provide services via another 5 for a total of 7 locations. We have 79 paid employees, 21 members of our board of directors, about 200 volunteers that work a recurring shift at one of our locations, and another 1,000 or more volunteers that help sporadically throughout any given year. And we have provided a variety of social services to Independence in eastern Jackson County for 106 years. Our board of directors at its March 2022 meeting voted to endorse the Eastgate Commerce Center project on the merit of job creation, and encourages the City Council to vote yes on the rezoning request. And for just a quick moment, I'd like to help demonstrate what warranted this endorsement. I live in the 1st Council District, and 4 of our CSL Independence locations are in the 1st District. Around World War II and the years after, that area was booming with growing families, many of whom were among the first Americans to live in the suburbs. Jobs that fueled a strong economy in Northwest Independence were plentiful. Armco Steel just outside the Independent city limits, Alice Chalmers and the Amoco refinery in Sugar Creek. They provided good, stable incomes. Van Horn High School, as baby boomers came through, cranked out graduation classes north of 600, well into the 1970s. But over the last 5 decades, in many parts of Northwest Independence, disinvestment has set in that area. And it's what we often refer to as the poverty economy. What once was retail, sit-down restaurants, and industry gave way to payday loans and buy here, pay here car dealerships. Families often moved south and east to more prosperous areas, and many sold their homes to investors who would rent them out. Some of those that remained worked at many of the low-paying jobs in the area, and the cycle of the poverty economy can continue. Many areas of the metro have added thousands of jobs over the years, providing prosperity to residents. Growth in areas like north of the river and Johnson County are certainly great, but not much of that money ends up back in Northwest Independence. Today, though, there are strong glimmers of hope in the 1st Council District. Areas like the Square, Inglewood, and Fairmount have neighbors that have banded together to bring vibrancy back into those neighborhoods. But jobs are needed, and not just any jobs. Jobs that can pay livable wages, jobs that are within a reasonable drive or available via public transportation, jobs that offer benefits. Jobs like that are how people break the cycle of poverty, a cycle that unfortunately has gripped many parts of Northwest Independence for 50 years. In today's political environment, it's often viewed that politics is a win or lose proposition. In Independence, I think we need a better option, one that's not win or lose, but and. And means we can do both. It's my hope that we can preserve green space and trails, and with planning and collaboration, build things that can bring prosperity to more people. For low-income families who are often families of color, immigrants, or headed by a single mom, CSL would encourage you to vote yes on this project. Will this one thing instantly bring prosperity to every resident of Independence? Of course not. But it's a great start, and it shows that within our community lies opportunity and hope. CSL has worked with Northpointe and other partners to help develop plans on a 20,000 square foot workforce training and connection center that would be part of this development. With approval, it's likely that this center could be open in 12 to 18 months, and our efforts are coordinated with the Fort Osage School District's Career Technology Center and Blue River Community College's new East Campus.
You have 1 minute.
With this new workforce center, we'll have tremendous synergy to provide the skills that residents of Independence will need, and these trainings will prepare them for jobs in the Eastgate Commerce Center and in other places. We have to execute on ideas that will move our community forward. And right now, many of our neighbors are lacking in job training and preparedness for the 2020s and beyond. We have to create a culture that will support our next generation of workers. This is a great start. Our community needs a big idea. For some, the status quo hasn't produced the results that we've wanted. We encourage you to support this big idea and vote yes on the proposed project. Thank you.
Next to speak is Floyd Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins. And proceed when you're ready, Mr. Hawkins.
Okay. City Council members, Mr. Mayor, Floyd Hawkins. I reside at 26400 East Bundshoe Road, about 2 miles from this development. I am a lifelong resident of Independence, Missouri. I'm pretty proud of that. I grew up right around Hokie and Necessary, which is, oddly enough, about a mile from this development. So I've kind of been in this area all my life. I taught for 41 years at Fort Osage School District, and I'm currently in my 3rd term on the school board, serving as president of that body. So I'm kind of here tonight on both counts as a resident and as a public official with the Fort Osage R1 School District. I remember a 1978 school board meeting that I was in attendance at, and we were looking for ways to develop more revenue for the Fort Osage School District, industrial development. And UMKC did the study that we commissioned. And their whole premise for the study was the fact that we needed a road to be developed through the Little Blue Valley. And this is 1978. That would provide the industrial makeup that would be needed to support the Fort Osage taxes, and would keep us from having to go to the people every time we needed something done or more revenue. So there was the plan. It was finally developed in the 1990s, started, and officially finished in 2011. This Eastgate Commerce Center will provide businesses and school districts with much needed revenue and sources that we can do other than coming to our people all the time and asking for tax increases. The city will benefit from this. You've heard that already. There's no risk for the city on this. This is not about us. I may be dead and buried by the time this is all finished and everything, but it's about our future. It's about our kids. It's about the kids that haven't even been born yet. If Independence continues to run from development and doesn't seek ways to increase revenue, I don't know how we survive. Somebody said something about a bedroom community. Fort Osage School District is a bedroom community. We don't have the tax base even that Lee Summit, Blue Springs, or even independent schools have. So this is very important for us. And we actually passed a resolution, which I believe you have a copy of, from our school board supporting this project. If I wanted to give you $800 million, would you turn it down? I can't believe we would vote tonight to turn that down. I hope that we vote to accept that offer. I urge you to vote for this project. Our future is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not some other project. It's today. And you're looking at those kids, you're looking at their future and their jobs and their potential. So I urge you to vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next would be Mr. Thomas Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor Rowland, members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Thomas Meyer. I live at 1803 Wyandotte Street. I'm here, though, as president of Metropolitan Community College's Blue River campus, which is located at 20301 East 78 Highway in District 3. And this is our Student Government Association president, Mr. Lyndon Davis. So I'll speak a little bit, and then I'll yield the rest of my time to our Student Government president. We're here to speak in favor of the Northpointe project. We are eager to partner with the school districts and with the community and the business partners that will be located in this facility to provide more training and work opportunities, employment opportunities for the students and for the community. We have about 2,000 students at the Blue River campus, all mostly from local communities who will be seeking work. And this is a great opportunity for job creation for our community. And with that, Mr. Davis will start talking.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Most of the students that I have talked to in regards to the Northpointe project are also in favor. With the opening of our Blue River East campus, which is more commercial education for jobs, this opportunity would create more jobs for the education that we have put forth for the students. So it would just give job opportunities for our own community as well. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Now, would it be okay with you if I could just ask one question, or is that inappropriate? Am I crossing the line there? One time, maybe? I just want to say to you, I'm very impressed that you were here as the student body council president. I was also that in college, and I never got them to allow me to speak in front of our city council or county government. So I want to talk to you later to know your persuasive skills. That's what I want to know. So very well done. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to do that. So I hope we're good. All right. Next on the agenda is Erin, is it Benny?
Benny.
Thank you. Ms. Benny, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, City Council. My name is Erin Biddy. I live at 3211 Reynolds Road in Independence. I am obviously here today to speak on my stance of the Northpointe development of the Little Blue Valley. I have grown up in Blue Springs and Independence and spent my 38 years in the woods surrounding our towns. To me, the cost of destroying hundreds of acres of habitat and home for several different species of wildlife far outweighs the benefits of bringing in industrial warehouses and commercial space. I'm here to speak on behalf of those who cannot, the many migratory birds that use this area as a place of refuge. Many species use this area to nest and hunt because of the unique diversity the valley gives, from forests, large trees, marsh and wetlands, a lake, and very large fields. We are even blessed with a pair of bald eagles who call this area home. Their nest is visible on the east side of 78 Highway, just past Little Blue Parkway, directly across from Bly Road. Pictures of the eagles in the nest have been sent to the Missouri Conservation, Federal Fish and Game, and Missouri Division of the EPA. I have also brought pictures this evening for you guys to see the nest. I ask that the council considers the environmental impact this complex will have on all species that call this valley their home, from the bald eagles, the North American snow geese, blue herons, hawks, deer, coyotes, beavers, and on occasion a passing mountain lion, just to name a few. There are so many other areas that could be reconstructed to fill this need. The Ellis Chalmers Complex, Nolan Fashion Square, or one of many blighted areas in Independence, for example, that could be transformed to fit the needs of any developer looking to come to this area that would still benefit the city of Independence. We need to start fixing what is broken and run down rather than destroying these beautiful areas. Bringing in industrial warehousing and complexes will have a huge environmental impact on everything from light pollution from the buildings to noise and air pollution from the influx of semis and traffic. In the future, we will not see the lush green of the valley, but in reality, the neighboring citizens will be left with a front street scenario. With this, you will also see a large amount of habitat displacement, pushing wildlife into high traffic areas and neighborhoods, causing more risk for property damage to citizens and drivers. I'm reminded of the old Cree prophecy, and I quote, "When all the trees have been cut down, when all the animals have been hunted, when all the waters are polluted, when all the air is unsafe to breathe, only then you will discover you cannot eat money." I ask that the council consider these points and think to the future of Independence in the terms of environmental sustainability. Think about the future of Missouri species that are being pushed from their habitat, and with habitat loss leads to endangerment and eventually extinction. Mass commercial development tips the scales of the fine balance of the ecosystem. If we refuse to take a hard look at the choices we are making today, we will leave very few choices for the children tomorrow. I ask you consider my words today with real thought and consideration, and I thank all of the members of the council for their time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And where are we at now? Okay. One at a time. Okay. Next up is Jason Snodgrass.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I appreciate the time to speak to you this evening. I'm here to represent the Fort Osage School District as the Superintendent of Schools. Fort Osage School District, our primary goal is to keep students safe during the day, and also separately when they walk across the stage in the Community of Christ Auditorium, that we have prepared them for life after high school. Although school districts are not necessarily judged by the amount of money in our bank account, it certainly takes revenue to operate a successful school district. First and foremost are educators, bus drivers, teachers, cafeteria workers, the list goes on and on, the folks who care for our students on a daily basis. To recruit and retain staff is crucial, and it takes revenue. It takes revenue in a marketplace where others are also in need of other employees. We are also the largest school district in Jackson County by area. But on the reverse of that, there's only one school district in Jackson County who has a smaller assessed valuation than Fort Osage. That's because of the large agricultural land in Fort Osage, which we are proud of. We're proud of who we are at Fort Osage. But the fact of the matter is, the agriculture land is assessed at 12%, while commercial is assessed at 32%. To say it simply, more businesses mean more tax revenue. The tax revenue that would be generated over the next 33 years is $32 million more. We currently receive $3,250 annually by the land that this property would sit in on our school district. So $32 million in addition to that over the next 33 years is proposed. Beyond that, the
problem I'm having is that
Is there a way to mute that? Okay. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
Separately, I would mention the jobs, which has been mentioned several times this evening. And beyond that, I've been working along with other folks, other school districts here in Jackson County, Blue Springs, Independence, also Blue River, as mentioned by Dr. Myers, CSL, and also Mid-Continent Public Library, to create a space in the first building that's proposed to be built, that's along Little Blue and R.D. Mize Road, or just north of there, the first building, which is actually in the Blue Springs School District, where we would share a space for educational programming. And this is important to our school district, this is important to our students, to prepare them for the real world and real world learning opportunities. And so we're in the process, as we speak, to discuss and talk about the planning of this. So we would simply provide them with a blueprint, them being Northpointe, and they would build and construct this. And then we would be able to utilize it for the years to come. I encourage the City Council to vote in favor of this project this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person to sign up was Damon Miles. Damon? Damon, start whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me tonight. I know I've talked to every one of you city council members about this several times. I know I've also talked to Northpointe about it. My whole point on this whole project is let's do it right. That's been my only argument, is let's do it right. We showed up here for a public hearing that started at 6 o'clock at night, and at 10:30 at night, they took up this issue. At 11 o'clock at night, I was the first one to get cut off because I mentioned the word prevailing wage. They said, we can't talk about economics, but everybody in the whole room, the whole night, talked about economics and how much money this is going to provide. The whole night. I left here at midnight, got in my office at 6 a.m. the next morning, looked on the computer and found out that the City of Independence threw on a meeting the following night. I turned around and texted the city clerk, the city manager, the assistant city clerk, the assistant city manager, and I asked where the agenda was. They politely called me and told me the agenda is on the computer. What you got to do is, instead of going to the normal page right here to find this agenda, this is the normal agenda, you've seen it. They said instead of going to the normal agenda, you've got to go and search for boards, then go down to economic development. Then after you're done going to economic development, click on agenda, and then the agenda will download. After that, you find this right here, the agenda for the meeting. The agenda for the meeting was exactly posted, exactly the way the law says, 26 hours before the meeting. Nobody knew about it because we're all here. We had almost 50 union members here to talk that night, all along the back wall, and every one of you guys seen it. You've seen them here. They had to work at 7 o'clock the next morning, so they never got a chance to talk. Slowly, one by one, they left. I got up and talked and said, let's do it right, and they said, you can't talk about prevailing wage. I've gone to Northpointe. I've tried to make an agreement with Northpointe. I talked to them this morning. They let me know we don't have an agreement. I've called several of you today asking, hey, this isn't right. You're right. Northpointe's a great company. I'll be the first one to tell you. Northpointe takes care of their employees. You'll see it right there. They are ranked for the last several years as one of the best employers to work. But I also have the Business Journal. Also in the Business Journal, there's listed the best construction companies to work for. The top construction companies will not work for Northpointe. Why? Because they do it cheap. Matter of fact, the owner of the company said, labor is a commodity to be bought and sold at the cheapest price. He tried to straighten us out on that and say, I'm talking about all labor. He's right, it's all labor is meant to be bought and sold at the cheapest price. That's why he uses Crossland. That's why he uses Emory Saft. That's why he uses all the non-union companies. Now everybody's coming up here and they're asking to have good jobs. The good jobs in Independence are the union workers. You can hate us if you want, you're right. We do have good jobs. We're paid right. We have pensions. Some of the people that he uses on his project doesn't even provide health benefits. Matter of fact, what they pay him an hourly doesn't even compare to what our benefit package is. So yeah, he doesn't like unions. But you go to Joliet, Illinois, he signed a contract up there to do the job, 100% union. And I found it. I sent him that contract and I asked him, can we do this in Kansas City? I have never, just a minute ago, I asked, I don't want to speak tonight. I'd prefer to solve this outside. And he says, I don't sign contracts in Kansas City.
You have 1 minute.
I don't sign contracts in Kansas City. Continue on. They had another meeting. Last week you had the city council meeting. The CID was in the minutes. But in the minutes, they've never had that meeting. According back to this page right here, the City of Independence held this meeting several days after city council. No agenda other than this one right here, posted on the computer. I can keep going. What you're voting on tonight is not the zoning package. You are voting on a 36-page document that says they can do this any way they want. Well, it doesn't say any way they want, but it does say at any time the company may give in written notice to abandon this project if the project is no longer economically feasible. You're going to give them 85% tax abatement. You're going to charge no sales taxes. Those are the only two places that the city makes money. They're going to refuse to use local help, and you're going to give them the okay. All I'm asking for is one thing. I want this project. I live here. My son went to school here. He went to Fort Osage. I support this community very, very much. But the sneaky underhandedness that's gone on in this is unacceptable. And I'm asking the city council tonight to do me one favor and put this on hold for 1 month and let us sit down and get agreement that benefits Independence. So please put a hold on this tonight and help out the union construction workers here in Independence. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next speaker, and please forgive me, James, is it Whittleton? Whittleton. Please forgive me, James.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I appreciate you taking the time to let me speak this evening. Apologize, I'm kind of losing my voice. I am speaking as a resident and also a hotelier here in Independence. I work for Stony Creek Hotels out by Bass Pro, and on behalf of the hotel and as a citizen, I am wanting to get this approved. Tourism is a big part of what keeps Eastern Independence hotels working and going forward. Our weekend business is people, transients coming in, for games and different activities, a lot of sports teams, but our weekday business does predominantly work around corporate. Some of the big people in the community, such as Lake City and Spire Gas, frequent our hotel, but the ability to keep our rooms full does cause us to have much more of a corporate travel coming into the community. This would bring a great deal of over-the-road truck drivers and other aspects that would really be a huge crucial part of getting Eastern Independence Hotel full and on a regular basis. We've seen out by the stadium, Adams Mark Hotel closing. You have an empty building sitting there, and the potential of the Chiefs moving and relocating is huge because of that area keeps decreasing in vibrancy. Eastern Independence Hotel area could see the same thing happen. Crime has increased in Independence, and vacancies in businesses has also increased. Independence Center has seen 2 big anchors leave, but this opportunity of this development coming in would also revitalize a lot of those vacancies, bringing back small businesses, bringing back larger businesses that want to come to the area, which is only going to help us all. As a resident of Independence living on the square, we moved to this community because we believe in it. We believe in the people. It's been a great place for many, many years, and the future is crucial for the younger generation. My grandfather worked for Armico Steel. He raised 5 children, and he did that all pretty much on his own income, but it treated him well. This Northpointe project can bring a lot of those jobs back to the community. I know there's a lot of pros and cons and everything, but speaking on behalf of as a resident and from the tourism side, we need this for this community to keep the future going. Our increase in visuals of groups coming into the area, we've been seeing a lot of conferences coming to the area. Their big focus is Independence. They want a place they can eat, have a great time, stay, and also tour our historic sites. So I do this evening hope for you to vote on this, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. And hopefully I do this one well too. I'm going to Leslie Scheinmeyer. Is that right? Did I get close? Close? All right. Help me get it precisely correct. And I will not take time away from you just to pronounce your name, okay?
Good evening. My name is Leslie Scheinmeyer. Say it really quick.
All
Just
right.
try to fly through it. The faster
good.
you say it, you'll get it right.
Thank you,
You're
Leslie. And you've spoken on this topic before, so you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Leslie.
Quick clarification, do I then need to repeat my address and all that good stuff?
I've got it here. We're good.
Okay,
We won't
perfect.
take time away, and you tell me when you want to start.
Perfect. Let's
All right.
do it.
All right.
So I was here 2 weeks ago expressing my concerns about the Northpointe development, and I will be honest that my concerns haven't changed. I'm not very good at reading legal contracts or understanding all the nuts and bolts behind these numbers. I know that the traffic study says that not all of the traffic involved in the industry development with the warehouses will be on Little Blue Parkway, that many, 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 many other roads will be impacted, including Missouri 78, Missouri 7, which, is outside the Independence area, 23rd Street, 291. I haven't seen any provisions for how the city is going to address that. There's been a lot of discussion about jobs and what these warehouses will bring. The future of the industry, from what I read and what I understand, is a lot of automation. I don't know what kind of jobs will be like when these warehouses are actually built and are actually leased. As for the CID, my understanding is that that is supported by sales tax generated from the area in this development. But I don't know where sales taxes come from in a warehouse. That's not my background. That's not my knowledge base. But I don't know anybody who walks into a warehouse and says, I'm here to buy something. Like, where does that come from? My understanding of the warehouses is that they supply online purchases typically, or other companies that are selling products in another place, not right there in that community. So I don't understand where the sales tax and the millions projected from that. I have a lot of concerns about how this moved through the city so fast. The concealment, perhaps, or at least that's my opinion, of what has happened behind closed doors, and the shadow of it all.
You have 1 minute.
Understanding, again, this is just my opinion, of the owner of Northpointe. Excuse me, I'm gonna let that go. I just had asked you to do your homework the last time I was here, and all I can do is ask you again and hope that you have done your homework on what's really going on. Is a tax abatement of 85%? What is all these numbers really, really meaning? I'm all for development for the right reason, in the right way. And I just don't believe that this huge proposal is the right one for us in the right way. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. I wish you the best of luck with the decision that you make for the future of Independence. Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie. Next will be Randall, is it Pratt? Randall Pratt.
Good evening. My name is Randall Pratt. My address is 214 South Spring Street, Independence, Missouri. I'm here to speak to the council from the perspective of someone who's been involved in development in the Little Blue Valley for more than 21 years. As a consultant, as an attorney, as a volunteer, and also as a trustee for a landowner. I'd like to make 4 points for your consideration from that perspective of someone who has been involved significantly for a long time. And the first point is this: Northpointe is a great fit for Independence as a developer. Over that period of time, I've been in meetings or pitches, solicitations with dozens of developers trying to interest them in Independence and trying to determine if we're interested in them. It's not always a good fit. We don't want just any developer to come here, but I'd like to say why I believe that Northpointe's an excellent fit for Independence now. It's a national developer with strong relationships with companies that we would enthusiastically welcome to our city. Perhaps you've seen in their introductory packet the types of national clients that they serve and have excellent relationships with as a landlord in other places. Not all developers can bring those connections to our city, to bring them here. We certainly want to have a place for local businesses to grow. The 2 business park areas in the Northpointe plans certainly provide for that. But we also want to bring larger national companies to our city, and the best opportunity to do that is a developer with these national connections. We also want a successful developer that has a track record of making it happen, of being successful. As you probably have already read, Northpointe is the #1 industrial developer in the United States over the last 5 years. And success breeds further success. Why wouldn't we want someone like that? Third, there are strong and admirable core values with Northpointe that I've experienced in my extensive work with them over the last 6 months. Live generously, put people first, take ownership of every situation, do the right thing every time, which I want to emphasize that they have, and maintain financial discipline. I've also been very pleased to work extensively with Northpointe staff, and they are people of very high quality and integrity, and I'm very pleased to commend them for your attention. The integrity of the people we work with is crucially important when we partner with a developer. And I can also say with conviction that Northpointe desires to be a good neighbor. We've worked collaboratively to enhance the Little Blue Trace Park system. I expect you'll hear more about that. It's not just having 2 new trailheads and extending significant hiking and biking trails along the old railroad bed to the IPL plant. There's going to be new connections along what will be new lakes and wetlands. There's going to be a dog park. There's going to be a significant addition of space to the park system. It's not that the Little Blue Trace Park will be the same. It will be much better than what we have today because of more buffering. Land that's now just farmland will become even more interesting to hikers and bikers as vegetation is added and allowed to be part of the park system itself. And lastly, the headquarters of Northpointe is here in Kansas City. Why wouldn't we be very pleased to have a local company that has an investment in the community as a whole? My second point is this. There's only one area that we should be surprised about that would be a good place for industrial development. The area that's over by Lake City along M7 has been planned for industrial uses for decades. And I hear very little surprise or opposition to that area. The area that's south by R.D. Mize Road and south of Spring Branch Creek has been planned for mixed-use purposes or for a business park for many years, and there's already industrial zoning for uses to the west and the south. It would fit well within the character of that neighborhood. And I want to emphasize we work very hard to make it friendly to the residents in that area with a true business park design, having the massing of buildings next to the parkway be smaller, the attention to landscaping. We've been very sensitive to neighbors in that area.
You
for
have
this
1
development.
minute.
And I would like to just also say that the other areas, it was good congruency of what we're planning to do along the IPL plant and the Barber Concrete area. It will improve the looks of that area. In terms of the 1999 plan I was significantly involved with, we looked at that for 23 years for a second town center. But we simply have to acknowledge that because of the decline in retail sales demand, the preferences for multifamily being not desired here, and floodplain management challenges, we should not expect that 1999 plan to be successful. We have to give up on that. Much as it pains me for someone who's been deeply involved in that plan simply won't work. We've asked other industrial developers to come to our city. Clayco in 2009, SIA in 2011, Trammell Crow in 2017, Salee in 2018 for only a 100,000 square foot building. Newmark Grubb Zimmer has been working for years to market this property. If we say no to Northpointe today, I have to be candid and say we should not expect another opportunity to come our way for a very, very long time. An excellent developer, an excellent plan, excellent for our city, and I stand firmly in support of this.
Next up is Bobby Diesel.
Yes, Diesel.
Just like the fuel?
No, there's a T.
Dietz?
Diesel.
Dietzel?
Yes.
All right, thank you, and thank you for your patience.
Hey, no worries.
Thank you, my friend. And you can start when you're ready, Bobby.
Okay, I'm been a resident for the past 4 years. One of the things that enticed me to moving here to Independence is the neighborhood in which I live in. I'm in Castle Woods. I'm just at the top of the hill from where this is, where this is being proposed. I know that there's been business parks talked. The thing that bothers me most is probably the environmental impact that this is going to make. Right now, I can go sit out on my deck, and enjoy peace and quiet. When this development goes through, we're going to have a constant hum of traffic. I'm curious as to what measures the city is willing to take to help enforce some of those noise issues. I know that there's federal mandates that we can't supersede, but something has to be done to save the integrity and character of that neighborhood. In addition to all the traffic, there's going to be more pollution. Semis, while they represent, I think, 4% of vehicles on the road, they make up about 30 to 40% pollution. That pollution can travel half a mile to 2 miles away. There's going to be significant health issues that could arise from this. People who've never had asthma or breathing issues, it could become a thing. We talk about a floodplain. What happens downstream? If the dirt right now, if it doesn't absorb, does concrete absorb better? I know that there's been talks of detention ponds, but is everything going to be great in a manner to where that doesn't go into the Little Blue? We talked about jobs. Yes, we need jobs, but I don't think that these are the jobs that we need. Warehouse industry is going towards automation more and more. There is going to be fewer people to work in those facilities. The training facilities are great. That's a great idea. I just don't think that this is the right choice for the city at this time. The scale, it's crazy, and I understand that most of the big warehouses will be towards Lake City. But again, it's going to disrupt the lives of so many people living in that immediate area. 10 to 15 years of construction. Who wants that? It's, in my opinion, it will not be a good thing for the citizens. Like I mentioned previously, there were hundreds of citizens that were against this. Given more time, I feel that there could have been a lot more that may have signed that petition. So it is my ask that we could possibly put this off. Think about this more. Look at more information. Has there been an environmental impact study performed for this project? And has that been made public? There's too many issues, too many concerns to go ahead and approve tonight, in my opinion. But again, I'm just a citizen. Thank you guys for your time, and I hope that you use caution when you decide.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And next is Keith. Yeah, please forgive me, Keith. Fuliani. Fuliani. Very good. I like how you. All right, do that again for me because that was just.
Fuliani.
There you go.
I mean, I'd say some other things, but.
All right, Keith. You've got 5 minutes and start when you're ready, my friend.
My name's Keith Fuliani. I live up top of Hill of Artemis, 3312. I'm not here to speak upon that. I'm here to speak upon 2801 South Necessary Road. Do you all know where that is? Do you travel that road ever?
Have.
Because it's horrible. It's a 2-lane road. 2801 South Necessary Road is a 56-acre plot with 9 football fields. Those are our football fields, Pop Warners. When I first saw it was on Facebook, the $800 billion or $1 million, whatever thing, and I saw the plot, I was like, what? It looked like they were taking away our land. And that's usually what happens when you just overreact. So the next morning when I woke up, I realized it was the school districts. So it's irritating that we give to Blue Springs when it's Independence, but that's just the way it goes. So, but after that, I went to the school where the meeting and met the people of Northpointe. We're just disappointed that when you look at that stretch, there's only one piece of land that looks like it actually gets utilized. It's just because it's cornfields, it's agriculture. That's all it is, except that one land that adjacencies to the north of us is going to be buildings, and then to the east of us is going to be the little shopping retail spot. So, and that's where Necessary Road comes in on. It is a hot melting spot for dumping. Last year I thought they were doing residential because there was a couch and a mattress on the cornfield, and I was like, wow, awesome. But it wasn't. Last year they dumped a dog in our ditch, which never got picked up. And the city said that the truck was broke that picks up the animals. And I don't understand. It's a truck. But it sat there, and to this day, it never got picked up. Nobody cares about Necessary Road. But on Saturday afternoons and mornings in the fall, for about 12 weeks, there's 400 to 500 cars coming and going every 2 hours out of that road. I just want to make sure, because after speaking with Northpointe and our concerns, and you'd think you'd be proactive maybe into the youth community, people love that. You thought the city would have maybe sat there and noticed, but you don't care. You didn't even notice. You don't even realize. I mean, that's the first thing I look at when I see it. You're surrounding 2 buildings. We're enclosed. When you drove down the Little Blue Expressway, the only thing you'd see is all the goalposts in the fields. I mean, I don't want the corn husks on our property anymore. I don't want to sit there and have to deal with all the goose poop. I mean, I don't mean to be mean, but the league is a nonprofit organization. We only survive on participation. We're all for it would take $80,000. Here is the number one complaint in the 25 years I've been down there, besides officiating, is no running water, and we have no bathrooms. We're not city funded. We're participation funded. And so the only way we can survive and take care of everything and the property and buy the $15,000 mowers and fertilize, everything that we do down there is based on participation. So when the water can get closer and closer to us, right now it'd take almost 80 grand to get there. So them building right next door, I mean, I could throw the football across Necessary Road. So as the league, we want it. And that's being selfish, so be it. We've been there for over 30 years. So the only other concern is Necessary Road. Because off their diagram, they've got 3 entrances. We have 4 entrances. So you're just talking, it's just going to be a cluster on a Saturday. And if we grow and we do more and more and more, it's just going to, I mean, it just becomes a cluster. Two regular dually trucks or just full-size trucks driving down, it's scary. It's a 6-foot drop-off on each side.
You have 1 minute.
And full water. So, I mean, all we care about is the youth sports and the youth community. You guys got the politics. That's your job. I teach X's and O's. So I think I started watching these meetings. I've been here before. I lived here, born and raised. Never moved out, stayed all pro independence on baseball, basketball, and football. So I'm all about independence, but I'm about the youth. So we're for it. We welcome them with open arms. We welcome to maybe have a good partnership with them and maybe be able to help us out. So that's all I got to say. How much time I got left?
You got 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
You can say your name again.
Just remember, I mean, you could always have the future Patty Mahomes out there playing. And everything's possible. Or Derek Carr, Raiders. So that's it.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Appreciate it. Next is Brent Miles. Brent.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Brent Miles. I'm one of the owners and founders of Northpointe Development based here in Kansas City. Thank you for having me tonight and our firm and hearing this vital project for your community. We appreciate your time and energy on this. Obviously, you've heard a lot from both sides tonight and previously input. I want to express, my thoughts on the project as well. We've committed to over $900 million, nearly $1 billion of capital investment in your community. This is a project that has size and scale. It's going to create 5,000 permanent jobs. It's going to create 4,000 estimated construction jobs. This is a huge economic impact. And with that, I understand there's change that comes, and I understand the citizens' comments and their concerns. We tried to approach this like we do most projects, which is elicit input. We held 3 community meetings in February, 1 in February, 2 in March. We've been to the Planning Commission. We've been to the EDIC twice. We've tried to elicit as much response. What you have before you tonight is a comprehensive plan and development agreement that takes into account the changes that we heard through those community meetings, through the Planning Commission, and through the EDIC. I'd be remiss to not mention that we did receive unanimous approval at both of those 2 commissions and committees. As you heard, and I'll address some of these questions specifically in my comments, you heard support from the school district. Obviously, the support of the school district is twofold, maybe threefold. One is tax revenues that generate over time for them. If you look through the analysis, without our project over the next 33 years, all taxing jurisdictions receive about $420,000. With our project, all taxing jurisdictions receive just shy of $152 million. As we all know, the lion's share of those revenues will be generated to the school districts. The Career and Education Learning Center is also a component, I'm sure, that was a factor in everyone's support from the school district, as well as the job creation that will happen for the students that are graduating that maybe aren't going on to 2- and 4-year universities. Every single day, 85% of your workforce population in this sector leaves the City of Independence to take a job outside of the City of Independence. In my opinion, and this is your decision, it would be a great thing to have those jobs back in Independence, as well as create jobs for new opportunities as well. You heard about environmental. Obviously, we're regulated by the federal government, the state government, the county government, the local government. You have all these regulatory agencies that look at stormwater, wildlife, environmental, flooding. All those things are things that we don't want as well. We're not investing $1 billion into a community that isn't going to adhere to all those rules and regulations. On top of that, we will do all these buildings as a LEED certification building because of those environmental concerns. That's what we do across the country. You've heard about maintenance to the city. We've introduced the Community Improvement District, the CID. That CID is a self-tax upon ourselves that generates an additional $10 million of revenue that is used at the city's discretion within the district to fund any maintenance or anything, items that come up. That way it's not a cost to the city. You heard about open space, trails, parks. 250 acres set aside for open space.
You have 1 minute.
2 new trailheads, a dog park, extension of those trails of the Little Blue Trace. Last, but certainly not least, is our commitment to $4.9 million of off-site infrastructure around I-70 and the interchange and Jackson. Those are issues that exist today that we're funding as a developer, as a sign of good faith, to say we want this project to be enjoyed by the community and not create any impact. With that, in closing, it's not every day that you have someone stand at your podium and invest $1 billion into your community. I know this is a big decision. I think it's a decision for the future of Independence, and I think it's a vote for the positive of the future of Independence. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is proclamations. Is that correct? And with my fellow colleagues on the dais, would it be okay if we took a 5-minute recess? I'm with you on that. I agree completely, my friend. You are reading my mind. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. Thank you. I'm glad we're all on the same page. On the same page. So, all right, all right, all right.
Rory.
Somebody told me I needed to take control and hit the gavel. I did not realize it would be that loud. Did you hear it, Councilmember? Finally? Very good. All right. Next item on the agenda is proclamations, and we've got a proclamation for the National Historic Preservation Month proclamation. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
All right. Whereas Historic Preservation Month is celebrated annually throughout the month of May, both locally and nationally, in order to recognize the significant role that preservation plays in our daily lives. And whereas the 2022 theme is People Saving Places, to recognize the great work people saving places in ways big and small, and inspiring others to do the same. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods and commercial districts, promoting sustainability, fostering civic pride, and maintaining character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is essential to heritage tourism in a 21st century economy. And whereas the city's dedicated historic site volunteers and preservation advocates provide unwavering support for our cultural resources. And whereas the promotion and preservation of the city's historic buildings and sites is critical to the identity of Independence. And whereas historic preservation is significant for communities across the nation, for Americans of all ages, from all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. Therefore, Rory Rowland, Mayor of the Independence, Missouri, hereby proclaims the month of May 2022 as National Historic Preservation Month throughout the city, and urges all people in the city of Independence to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
And Madam City Clerk, next on the agenda, if I'm correct, is the consent agenda. Is that right?
Correct.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
So moved. And a second? And then we take a roll call, or?
Roll call.
Okay. Please.
I actually wanted to pull one of those.
Okay, and which items would you like to pull, my friend?
The resolution 22745.
22745, a resolution amending comprehensive plan for the properties, is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
It was 22745. Any other discussion on any of the other items? Okay, we'll pull the one item, and the rest of the items will be consent, and I'll ask for a vote in just a moment. Just want to let everybody know, okay? So we'll have a consent agenda with 22745 being pulled out. The rest of them will be approved. Do I have a motion to approve the items as stated with the one item being pulled out?
We already have the motion.
Already have the motion? All right. Those, Madam City Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Okay, next thing is the public.
We have to discuss 22745.
Councilmember Stewart, we're going to discuss 22745, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just make a motion to approve it. I have no comment beyond that.
I'm sorry?
I'll just make a motion to approve it. No comment beyond that.
So just for clarification for me, since I'm new in this, basically you want to go ahead and approve it as it's on here?
Yes. I'll make a motion. I just
Okay.
wanted to pull it for separate consideration. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. And I have a second from Councilmember Perkins. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
now this
This resolution is for the approval of the rezoning.
Okay.
Is that correct?
As I understand it, go ahead.
Okay. In terms of Northpointe, we're hearing a lot of discussion on this, but so before we vote for this, I want to make sure that we're clear on some of the concerns as a third district council member who has dealt with some of the bad economic decisions we made. Yes, sir?
Councilmember, just to clarify, 22-744 is amending the comprehensive plan. It is different from the rezonings that are coming later on in the agenda. I just want to make sure we're all on the same
So
page.
be specific to what we're voting on here, from your understanding.
What you're voting on here is amending the city's comprehensive plan
Right.
as it relates to the Northpointe properties, but that is different from the rezoning.
So we're not approving the rezoning right now?
That is correct.
Okay, so as long as we're not, I'm good.
Okay.
So, no more discussion on that.
And this is just basically a resolution, if I understand it correctly, it's just a resolution saying we're going to amend that comprehensive plan, but it is not in fact amending that comprehensive plan. It is just a resolution bringing that up, the issue up.
It would amend the comprehensive plan. However, that is a separate and distinct issue from the actual rezonings that are coming later on in the agenda.
Okay.
And I'd certainly welcome another member of the staff if they want to clarify further, but that's certainly my position.
Okay. And I agree with you, Councilmember. Thank you for that. I just want to, be clear too. So thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments, concerns? All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. And that is all the consent agenda items there. We're moving on to the regular agenda, and this is for public hearings. And if I'm correct, Adam, I'll turn this over to you so you can help us proceed.
All right, so we need to read the public hearing, and then Rick Arroyo.
Will come up?
There you go.
Okay. All right, so I'll read it. A public hearing for the application of Northpointe Development requesting a rezoning for R-6/PUD, single-family residential planned unit development, and C-2/PUD, general commercial planned unit development to, I believe that's I-1, is that correct? And then industrial for a property located north of M78, west of Little Blue River, and east of the Little Blue Parkway, as I understand it, and new information.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Rick Arroyo. I'm the Assistant Community Development Director here at the City of Independence. This rezoning was considered by Planning Commission on March 22nd of 2022. The Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this rezoning. This is the property that's north of M78 Highway, east of Little Blue Parkway, and south of Truman Road, west of the Little Blue Parkway, going from a C2 PUD and R6 PUD to the I1 Industrial for the Northpointe development. This is the mostly north end of that Northpointe development property and part of that southern middle portion of the project. I have no new information to add.
Thank you very much. And then, if I'm correct, Madam City Clerk, we'll have do I need to read this next one? Okay, so we'll have a discussion on the public hearing, if I'm understanding it correctly. So it is now open to the council members to have any comments or questions regarding the public hearing that we had earlier. Huh?
Now? I just want to make sure.
Now your time to proceed,
Okay.
Councilmember.
So, I'm going to go through several items here of concern, just from the perspective of the third district. I am not against development, and I've had people tell me that I am. I'm not. I'm just for development that makes good economic sense for our city. When we look at an abatement, which I asked about back in January with Northpointe, and I didn't really get an answer on it. I was shocked to see that they were asking for 85%, which leaves 15% that goes to several different sources here. So we're doing a replacement tax, which is a pilot component, so I understand that particular component, and it gets spread based on a regular distribution formula for regular property tax. So when you start to break down that 15%, the city will get about 7.88% of that. That's about, based on the numbers that I've seen from the numbers provided to us, that is over 33-year stretch, that's $321,000 a year. So you have to ask yourself, you know, how does the city provide fire, police protection, maintain roads, more traffic from trucks, cars, provide snow removal, other services for $320,000 a year on average. The city has all the expense of supporting the project, but gets less than 8% of the revenue. And the revenue that is heavily discounted because of the tax abatement. So the developer is going to make a lot of money. Landowners are going to make a lot of money. The city gets basically left holding the bag to pay for the services and the infrastructure improvements. So if we look at this, and I'm not against the schools receiving the revenues that they need. In retrospect, you look at it, it's about 0.58% of their budget, so it really is kind of small in comparison. But Northpointe has requested sales tax abatement on construction materials. So there's no revenue to the city there, zero. That's about a $22 million, right now, it's about a $22 million loss to the city. So does it cost the city something? I've heard a lot of, it doesn't cost the city anything. It does. It costs the city $22 million just in the sales tax abatement that they're asking for. So if my assumption is that there won't be a lot of sales tax generated by the product of the sale of goods. I haven't heard anything to convince me otherwise. We don't know who's going to be occupying these buildings, so we don't know what's going to be done. So even if there's no abatement, sales tax gain would be limited if it's shifting business from within the city. So what I mean by that is instead of shopping at grocery store A, someone shops at grocery store B. And so the only way to get incremental sales tax gain is pulling businesses from other cities. So we have to ask ourselves, is that going to happen? We don't know. So there'll be taxes generated from franchise fees on utilities, and I think those should be earmarked for the general fund so that we can do all the maintenance and the cost to keep that area to where it can be. The roads are good and everything in terms of infrastructure is done. So the big issue, without significant sales tax or franchise fees, it'll cost the city way more to provide services than what it'll gain in revenue. That's just the bottom line. The city's less than 8% cut is, like I said, about $321,000 a year, plus an incremental sales tax gain and franchise fees, and we're not sure what that adds up to in total. But the cost side of the ledger is police and fire protection, street maintenance, snow removal, sewer maintenance, etc. You build these buildings out here, you're going to have to build a fire station. You're going to have to buy trucks. You're going to have to employ firefighters. You're going to have to increase police presence. That's just the way it's going to work. We're probably going to need a hazmat station. And just in talking with the firefighters, that's the most expensive type of station that we'd have to build, because we don't know who the occupants are going to be. So I'm looking at it, I think I'm all for development, but it has to make economic sense for this city. This does not make economic sense. And this is where I think we need to take a hard stop, and then we need to get some clarity on these numbers. Because these numbers are what was provided to me, and if these are great numbers, then why do I need a SID? And I'm curious about the $10 million SID that was discussed. Over how long is that $10 million going to be? Is that per year for 33 years? I don't know. I haven't seen the SID. I don't think any of the council members have seen the SID. Hasn't been sent to us. I haven't seen it. So it's a 30-plus page document that none of us have seen, so it's hard to make a decision economically on something we haven't seen. But like I said, if the abatement is such a great deal, where we're sharing 15%, and the city's getting 7.88%, so less than 8%, we don't need a SID if it's such a great deal for the city. I just don't think that this is a great deal for the city. You have to ask yourself, will it cost the city more than $320,000 to maintain roads that have heavy traffic and trucks? How will the fire department provide protection when we don't have trucks that operate properly? Every time we add new development, we need more police and fire protection. You have snow removal, you have other city services. I'm asking you, do we need a win that's going to cost this city, put us upside down financially over the next 33 years? I'll be 93. So I guess I could just vote and go, well, whatever happens, happens. But I have an obligation to not just you in the now, tonight, but to the generations to come. And I wonder how we're going to make this deal work 33 years down the road. And it concerns me in the SID that if this doesn't work out in the 3 phases that they have, that they can just pull out and go on their merry way. I think we need to go back and sit down with Northpointe and work out a better deal for this city. If you all want the development, and I'm not against development, but it has to make economic sense. This deal does not make economic sense. And in the 3rd District, we are already saddled with something called the Crackerneck Creek TIF. And that is costing us now around $88 million. So as someone who lives in this city, grew up in Independence, I'm a lifelong resident, I represent the 3rd District. I'm concerned that this development does not make good economic sense. I'm also concerned about the job pay scale. I want to see our labor in this city, I want to see them working. And I've asked Northpointe to give them a place at the table and to work something out. And I hope that that can still be accomplished, because I think we need to go back to them. I really do. And we need to look at this deal, and I think we need to renegotiate something that is not at the expense of making sure we have enough money to serve citizens that we have today, and this will. But if everybody has decided that this is somehow, we just got to have a win at any cost, then you're right, this is the deal. But it will cost our city. And I'm telling you, I put these numbers out, no one has told me where I'm wrong. The numbers that I heard tonight are different than the numbers that were provided to us. The council has yet to see the SID. I'm asking that this be stopped for at least 30 days. And we look at this and we go back to the table with them and we ask for a better deal. This one doesn't make sense for our city. And I will vote no, if forced to tonight, on this purely from the standpoint of economics. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Staying on the topic of taxes that Mr. Steinmeier raised, I wanted just to ask the management a couple of questions connected to that. My understanding that the bulk of the income to the city comes from sales taxes, not property taxes. Would that be accurate?
Actually, our largest source of revenue to the general fund is the pilot, first and foremost.
Okay. But we do receive revenue off sales tax.
Yes, sir.
And so it's my understanding, and I'm wanting to clarify this, that while we would be foregoing the sales tax on the construction items, construction material and that part of it, that we would not be foregoing any revenue from internal components to the building. So if somebody puts $5 million worth of racks in their building, we would receive sales tax off of that. Would that be correct or not?
So maybe I should clarify. We talked a lot about the community improvement district, okay? How that would work is if a tenant within the district is designates that location as a point of sale, then that's how sales tax would be generated within the district, okay?
Well, no, what I mean is, my question is more about, so Northpointe would not have sales taxes on the construction materials, but what about internal components to the building after their construction is complete?
Yeah, David Martin, Gilmore and Bell, Economic Development Council to the city. So you're honing in on a good point, which is the STECM certificate or sales tax exemption on construction materials being given to Northpointe allows them to construct these buildings and prepare them to be tenant ready. Then if a tenant comes in and installs what you refer to as tenant finishes by the contract, that's excluded and they would have to pay sales tax on those finishes. Also, with respect to any personal property for which the situs of sale would be the delivery location, they would have to pay sales tax on that, as that's not exempt as a construction material.
Okay, that was my question. So there would be revenue from both that as well as from the CID to help defray the expenses that we're talking about that the city would have on an ongoing basis. Okay, thank you. That's my revenue questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Other discussions?
Mr. Mayor.
Proceed.
May I address Deputy City Manager and Mr. Martin?
If they'll let you.
Hey, we're supposed to do that, you know.
I know. I'm supposed to ask them, would you like us to proceed? Thank you.
Specifically, Mr. Martin, because you are very familiar with Bass Pro and the TIF and what TIFs are. Could you explain, I asked you this before, I'm going to ask you again, explain it like I'm 5, the TIF on Cracker Neck Creek, what's a TIF? What did we do there?
So the major difference between what we're talking about now and Cracker Neck Creek is on Cracker Neck Creek, a TIF and some special districts were set up to generate streams of revenue that were going to pay bonds. Money was borrowed, and the basis of that borrowing was, one, the city is going to use those revenue streams to repay the bonds, but two, if the revenue streams are not sufficient, the city is going to step in and make annual appropriations from other sources to pay those bonds.
Okay, let me stop you right there and make it even simpler. So what happened is the city gambled. They said, if Bass Pro comes, if you come and do this deal, we'll guarantee the loans to build it. We'll guarantee it as a city. And if Bass Pro doesn't make enough money to even pay the loan payment, then the city will pay the loan payment.
Essentially, that's correct.
Okay, so that's the city, and would you agree with me, Mr. Norris, that is the city speculating that we're going to have a retail business that's going to make so much money we can pay it off and make some more, right?
That seems fair.
Okay. Now, so the tax abatement, 15% hits you as a low number. But Mr. Snodgrass said right now in 30 years or every year he gets $3,000 or a year right now. So my question is this, 100%, he gets 100% right now. There's no tax abatement on that property, right?
Correct.
And it's agriculture, so it has a very low property value, a very low taxing rate. Is that fair?
That's also correct, I believe.
Okay. So he gets 100%, of a very low property value. 15% of what the land will be worth once the buildings are built, is it fair to say it's significantly more than 100% of what we have now?
That's what the numbers are showing, yes.
Okay. So, in other words, 15% of a lot is more than 100% of nothing or very little.
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure Mr. Snodgrass's point got made, because that's important to see. It sounds like the city's missing out on a lot of money, but the money wouldn't exist at all without Northpointe. So we're getting 100% of roughly nothing. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
You're getting 100% of a much lower tax amount.
I appreciate that. Mr. Norris, if you have to speak your answers, otherwise the court reporter
Yes.
can't take it down. Thank you. Those are all the questions I had. I just wanted to make sure the economics were clear so that folks understood where the money was coming from. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Proceed.
Thank you. So just to be clear, here's the numbers that I broke down based on the numbers provided to us. City of Independence will get 7.88 of that 15%. Everybody's kind of worried. Of the overall 15%, so the 100% of the 15%, City of Independence will get 7.88%. MCC, the junior college, will get 2.62%. Mid-Continent Public Library, 4.48%. Now we're slicing this 15% up, right? Mental health, 1.39%. Independent School District, 31.64%. Fort Osage Schools, 26%. Blue Springs Schools, 17.22%. Jackson County is going to invest nothing, and we're going to give them 7.52%. And then there's the Missouri Blind Pension. If that's part of the two, it's 0.39%. So take that 15% and just look at how it's being divided up. Like I said, I'm not going to make it about the schools. The only one that I have a qualm with is Blue Springs, but what are you going to do about that, right? So we're going to give them, on average, it's about $700,000. How much do they have to invest? How much skin in the game does the county have? Zero. How much skin in the game does Fort Osage, Independence, all that? I'm not going to get into that, but their budget, if this had a residential component, then there would be a greater cost. The only cost that I can see to the schools out of this is if in fact these jobs are $17 or $18 an hour and it's a family of four, they would qualify for free lunch, or at least partially paid lunch. So that's a component we have to look at. I'm just saying, I want Fort Osage. I know what Dr. Snodgrass will do with an extra $1 million. I've seen what he's doing in that district. I want him to have that. But I think we can do better. I really do. I'm just breaking down the 15% that the city's going to get, and we are going to be sitting at 7.88% to do an awful lot of things where we're carrying it, we're facilitating it, we're maintaining it, and it falls squarely on us. I struggle with the county making almost as much as we do and doing nothing for it. So, these are the numbers as I was given, and these are the breakdowns. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not against development. I just don't want us making bad economic decisions, especially in my district. We owe you that much. So, since I have some doubt, and some folks are wondering if these numbers are real, and believe me, they've had time to tell me I'm wrong, and I haven't heard anything or seen anything, I'm asking, can we sit down and continue to discuss this economic plan, this deal? That's all I'm asking for. Just put a stop on it. And let's make sure that we understand as a council the SID and who's being taxed. And this $10 million that was thrown out tonight, how long is it? Who gets it? Who's being taxed? Sales tax, I get, inside, but that's not Northpointe. That's their tenants. So, okay, we'll get something there, but we don't know what kind of tenants they're going to have. So I'm just saying, I feel like as a council, we owe it to you financially, being responsible to make sure that the deal on the table works for this city and we can pay the bills and we can utilize what we're getting in revenue to maintain this deal. That's all I'm asking for. And so I'm moving that we table this for 30 days and so that we can review the SID, we can make sure that this deal works for this city. And if we need to go back to Northpointe, I say we do that.
Okay. So if I understand you, to make sure, Councilmember, that I understand you correctly, you're making a motion to postpone this for 30 days is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on proposing to delay the vote on this matter? Does anybody have any discussion on that?
Mr. Mayor, we're actually still in the public hearing portion.
Okay.
So we would need to close the public hearing and then move on to the ordinance in order to take up that motion. Because right now we're not in the spot yet to be able to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what you're saying is the motion is not acceptable at this point because it's not germane to the topic at hand. We're still in the public
That's
hearing
correct, right. We should close the public hearing. Technically, once we get to the ordinance, there still will be an opportunity for all the council members to speak further on this and to make the appropriate motions, but we should close that first.
Okay, very
Thank you.
good. Thank you, my friend, for clarifying that. Does that help, Councilmember? That we have to do that under the ordinance part.
I just got it.
That is okay, and I'm new to the game, so please forgive me for that mistake. Okay. Anyone else on the discussion on the on 22-030-2R in the public hearing portion? Anyone else? Okay. Then we vote on that motion.
We'll go ahead and read the bill.
Okay. Okay. Then we have a motion to close the hearing. Is that correct?
You don't
Do you want to do it? I have that kind of power? Yes, sir. So announced. So there we go. Next thing is the public hearing for application by Northpointe. Do you want me to read that? Or?
It's not the public hearing, it's the bill.
Okay, right here.
And I'll read that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bill number 22-030, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 PUD Single Family Residential Plan Unit Development and C2 PUD General Commercial Plan Unit Development to District I1 Industrial for properties along M78 Highway, East Truman Road, and Little Blue Parkway in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Proceed.
I move to just table this for 30 days so that each council member has an opportunity to receive the SID, review the SID, and make the best informed economic decision for our city at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
thank you. Since we're on the topic of the SID, I had these conversations through some constituents who had asked me specifically about SID, and I'm fairly versed when it comes to SID, but I did have a few questions about this particular SID because it's just a little bit different, but not much. But my whole point of the matter is my questions to the city manager's office was also given to the rest of the council. So you should have information regarding the SID from April 27th. Council should also have information from the SID from April 26th. Maps, everybody should have this information. I'm assuming, because the deputy city manager started off my email with, "Good afternoon, the entire city council has been blind copied on this email. In the event others receive the same inquiry, my responses are in the bolded, underlined text below." So I'm assuming, because I know I'm very comfortable with this SID, that the rest of this council received the same information. So I will be voting no on this measure.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, proceed.
I concur with Councilmember Perkins, also be voting no to table the item.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is that just the response of the assistant or the deputy city manager is enough to satisfy them without us having the opportunity to review the 30-plus pages of the SID?
Mr. Mayor.
I would like to have that opportunity to sit and review it. And it's not that I don't trust the information that was communicated to us. There was concern that it came about just not long ago, and we should have been sent the document. We didn't get that sent to us. We should have had that document sent to us for review. I'm just asking that we have time to review it.
Mr. Mayor,
proceed. Oh,
may
go
I?
ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Norris.
Okay, so what is being considered right now is the rezoning. There is a development agreement later on the agenda that is to be considered by the city council. What you're referring to is the development agreement, not the community improvement district. The development agreement contemplates the eventual formation of a community improvement district. That was also considered by the Economic Development Incentive Commission last week and was approved. Within the next 60 days or so, there'll be an application that comes forward to create the community improvement district. It'll be an ordinance. It will require 2 readings. That will come before the council for consideration at that point. The development agreement merely sets forth the fact that is contemplated, and we're going to work together with the developer on putting that in place.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask
Yes,
him a
proceed.
question, please?
Sure.
So, and that's fine, but let's be clear what we're voting on so that we're all clear. So if we vote for the rezoning, it's basically done. So I know they had, I tried to watch most of it, but I had to work and I got caught up. So I didn't get a chance to review that ADIC meeting concerning the SID. I didn't even know about it till someone called me, but that's neither here nor there. I would have just thought it would have been fitting to send to us for review the document itself. Am I out of line for assuming that?
So the only document that mentions the CID right now is this development agreement that was put together. That was in the first reading 2 weeks ago. That was contemplated in the development agreement. So at some point in time, again, within the next 60 days, the full document creating the CID will be produced. We'll work together with the developer on that and bring it forward to the council for a first reading.
So if we,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, so if we approve the rezoning, essentially, that's done, correct? So if you bring this back to us in 60 days and we don't like what we see, what do we do? How do we go back and say, we don't want to do this now? I mean, we want something a little more economically feasible for the city. What do we do at that point?
So the next 3 items are rezonings. So that does not include the approval of the development agreement. That is later in the agenda.
Okay.
And just for my clarification, Mr. Norris, if I can, please. The SID discussion came up, pardon me, after we got deeper into the agreement for everything, to say we need more resources to pay for the streets, the snow removal, those kinds of things. If I'm correct on that, if I'm recalling things correctly.
So the community improvement district includes a 1% sales tax,
Mm-hmm.
and then a 5 cent per square foot of building assessment, self-imposed assessment. Both of those items, the building assessment is going to be used at the city's sole discretion. I think our position is we'll use that for street maintenance and going forward.
Okay.
The sales tax pays for the public improvements. Part of those public improvements are a substation, okay? The city or IPL would be responsible for that cost anyway. But if the CEID is formed, we would have the potential to be reimbursed for that. And we get 2/3 of that, and the developer gets 1/3 until we're fully reimbursed. So we get made whole quicker than the developer does on that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Just, do we have any cost factors in terms of what we have to do to improve public safety, what it's going to cost the city? I haven't seen anything.
I can have, which one would you like to speak with, fire chief or?
All of them.
Okay.
It's public safety. I'd like to speak to them all.
I'd first ask Deputy Chief Stobart to step up, please.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of council,
Thank you.
Deputy Fire Chief Kirk Stobart.
Proceed.
Sorry. So, to take on this development, obviously we need to make sure that their investment is protected and that our residents are protected, so fire safety becomes an issue out in that location. My question is, what would it cost us to build a station, hazmat, equipment, apparatus, personnel, benefits, pay? Can you give us some type of ballpark as to what the cost just to do a fire station in that area and increase our fire service?
So I don't have the exact numbers on the cost for a new
wouldn't
fire
think you would,
station.
so it's okay.
I know the last one we built was somewhere in the nature of $7 million. I believe Station 3 was right in that ballpark area. The good news is that the citizens were kind enough to pass a sales tax increase for us back in November. And we are actually in the planning stages of using that money, providing for staffing, fire stations, rebuilds, new stations. And we currently are doing a study, as you well know, to see exactly where the placement is. And ESCI, who is conducting that study, is very aware of the possibility of this type of development going up in that area in the future. So they're going to actually factor that into their consideration as they plan that out. We are pretty confident in our, call it a crystal ball, that Station 8, which is located by the power plant, is going to need to be replaced. And we're pretty confident, since we already own the land, that there's a high probability that the new Station 8 will more than likely be built on the property that we have at the training tower at Powell and 78 Highway.
What about Station 5, our sinking station?
So Station 5 is also one of the older stations, and it actually houses our hazardous materials team. And we're also, as we're contemplating this, we've already got some ideas in mind for the new Station 8 to add bays for more apparatus, with the possibility of moving the hazmat out towards the east, out to that station.
Okay. So when will that study be done?
That study will be done in September.
September. Okay.
Should get the final report in September.
And that's good to know. The only reason why I ask is, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's real hard to put it back, right? So we're going to make sure that we have the ability to pay for the needs that you, as a department, has.
Correct.
Whether it's out there, and the ones we've been talking about since I've arrived. And 5 is definitely one of them.
Yep.
And so, and the equipment and the personnel expansion, so.
We are also expecting it to come back and say that we need an additional station somewhere in the I-70-470 corridor. Really, the challenges that we're faced with right now is providing the staffing and the equipment to get in there, so.
Right.
Just like anything else.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stobart.
Yes.
We're talking about Northpointe development, not the fire station's planning. So what are we doing?
No, that's exactly right. We've got to stay focused on the Northpointe development, and and the question I understood you said, Councilmember, was regarding Northpointe and the public safety regarding Northpointe, if I'm understanding you correctly.
It's correct.
Okay.
But it's not immaterial that it's not just one station out there. The department has been talking about the needs in the city.
Right.
So if we don't have the revenues to pay for one, we're certainly not going to have the needs or the revenue to pay for all. So
Right.
we've got to work on that. So, okay. So
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
to carry on with the conversation of the fire safety, as we recall from our discussion last summer, which we were talking about the needs and the growth of our city, not only the redevelopment side, but also with the greenfield development. And this was the whole purpose and twofold reasons why we have two ballot measures. One was for the IPD and bill number 21057. Then we also had one for our firefighters to look at the studies, which is very much needed. So we've taken that forethought, and we have done that, and the voters have approved overwhelmingly. I'm guessing 67% for the fire department, 71% for the IPD. So we are actually doing those steps. We did that stuff last year, so to make more room and do the improvements and do it correctly this year.
And if I can, just to follow up on that, what I'm hearing you say is you don't have the exact numbers, but you're pretty confident that with the revenues you're going to get from the tax proceeds last year, that would help you be able to provide services to these areas as they grow over the next 15 years.
Pretty confident.
Okay.
There's a lot to factor in there, but
Sure.
I'm an optimist, so.
Right. But right now, we're looking at, when we start this development, the next 2 or 3 years are really just going to be a couple of buildings, up from Menards as you go up the Parkway, if I'm hearing it correctly. Is that correct, Mr. Norris?
The stations we're talking about were planned for replacement regardless of this development. The
Okay.
sales tax was approved by the voters to assist with new construction of fire stations. So
Okay.
this is all part of our long-term plan that the city council approved, the voters approved. So
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Thank
to
you.
call for a vote on this.
Okay.
I've asked for the chief of police
Okay.
to come forward.
And the chief will come forward.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, Adam Dustman, Interim Police Chief for the Independence, Missouri Police Department.
So to build such an expansion, the development out in the bottoms, being that we're somewhat understaffed, can we say somewhat?
Yes.
To expand public safety in that area with the new development, we'll need added patrols.
That is a correct statement, sir. Yes, I would hope that, again, as we are in the hypotheticals, whether it be $150 million in revenue, $10 million in SID, however much revenue that's generated, that as part of that, increased staffing from the police department would be included in that measure to deal with or adequately serve any future call load that we would have out there.
So what do you estimate the cost to expand patrol to be able to cover a large industrial complex?
I can't speculate, Councilman, in that. It depends on what the call load is. It depends on all sorts of things, security surveys and call load based on the types of businesses that are there. We could have 0 or we could have 100.
Right. So could we facilitate that if we were at 0 or 100 with our current staffing level?
No, we would need to increase staffing, but like I said, I would hope that, and trust as the city prepares for that, the additional revenue that comes in, as we've done in the past, would be, we would have to include public safety staffing as a measure in there to deal with any development that would go out.
Understood. Well, and thank you for your time. I'm just curious how we're going to do this on $320,000 a year. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, before
Yes.
my request to call the vote, I believe Mr. Walker wanted to add something. He has been quite quiet tonight, but he is online in Zoom.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that Dave Martin made this point generally, but I want to stress it again. A community improvement district is a self-imposed tax by the owners within a geographic boundary. Earlier this evening, the council voted to remove approval of a CID from the responsibility of the Economic Development Incentives Commission. We were the only city in the state doing that. Cities do not approve the budgets for CIDs. We approve formation of allowing the property owners to do that, and then we are the bank that collects that. So how they choose to spend that money within that is subject only to restrictions of state statute. There is no risk to the city of any monetary impact whatsoever. It is, again, a self-imposed tax approved by the businesses within the geographic boundary to support their development activities.
Thank you.
I'd like to
Yes.
again make a motion to call the vote.
Okay, I've got a motion to call the vote. Second. This is via roll call then. Okay. Madam, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, so
Please.
for clarification, are we making a motion to vote on the motion?
You're making,
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
you're voting on the motion to call the vote to vote on the postponement motion.
Right.
Okay.
So the motion we're taking right now is just postponing it. Those in favor of postponing it would vote yes. Those opposed to postponing it would vote no.
No.
Yeah.
This is,
We're voting on the motion to call the vote
Correct.
on the motion.
Right.
okay.
If you want to vote on the motion to table, we first have to vote on my motion to call the vote.
Okay.
Yes.
To see if that goes, and then we move to the next item.
Correct.
Okay.
If this motion is approved, then we will immediately vote on the motion to postpone.
Okay. Very good. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Okay.
This is the motion to postpone Bill number 22030. Councilmember Spheres?
No.
Perkins?
No.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
No.
Mayor Rowland?
No.
Okay, that motion fails.
Okay.
So this takes us back to Bill number 22030.
Okay. Any more discussion
Mr. Mayor?
on this
Mr.
bill?
Mayor.
Yes. Proceed.
I need to ask Mr. Cover a question if I can.
Yes. Go ahead.
Mr. Cover, I emailed you last week about a question that I'd had relative to potential conflict of interest because I'm a member of Community of Christ Church and I worked there for 28 years. And my question is were you able to find any information as to whether that poses any sort of conflict in this particular situation?
Yes, sir. As you requested, we reviewed the applicable sections of the city charter as well as state statutes related to conflicts of interest, taking in mind the relationships that you just described that you have with the church. None of those relationships pose a conflict of interest. We also did a search and found that similar decisions had been made, actually specifically with the church, involving previous elected officials as far back as 1988, where just being a member of the church didn't pose a conflict. And obviously in this case, there isn't any other financial benefit that you're getting from this transaction, and therefore there is no legal conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cover.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. I lost Mr. Mayor.
It's all right.
I'm
Mr.
going
Fears,
to
go
continue and make some comments, and my comments will be regarding all of the rezoning requests. I've been listening to discussion about the valley for over 30 years now, in different ways in different places. And from my understanding, when the Little Blue Parkway was put in, this is kind of the original concept of what type of development would be proposed in that area. So I think this is very consistent with that. I did listen to a number of concerns from people as I was out campaigning and talking to folks about this proposed development. I attended the Planning Commission meeting that was 6.25 hours long and listened to every bit of that. I've been to the community meeting, one of the community meetings that was held. I visited Northpointe at their offices twice and saw what kind of complex they have there and saw the nice looking facility that they have there. And so, I think that we have a good project here before us. I listened to concerns, as I said, I listened to concerns as I campaigned, And my observation is that Northpointe also listened to those concerns and responded, as been shared tonight, with more green space, with learning center, with a way to pay for expenses through the CID, with dealing with the traffic issues that are concerns and proposed. I think 5,000 jobs is not something we can just wave our hand at and not consider in a significant way. I think that there will be residual impact through new development elsewhere in the valley that will hopefully come through as a result of this development. I've heard lots of speakers. I've received letters from lots and lots of people, or emails, I should say, mostly emails, from lots and lots of folks. And we have received letters as well from all of the communities that that Northpointe is developed in. And each one of those is very positive. It's very, they said that Northpointe has been very good to work with. I've actually had more, in terms of individual emails, I've had many more individual emails, probably 3 times as many individual emails in favor of this development as opposed to those that were opposed to it. And so, I'm of the general opinion that this proposal the benefits far outweigh the concerns of this development, and I'll be voting in favor of this.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I had one question and then a comment. So my question, and Adam, I'm not sure if you have this, or maybe the developer would want to answer. How do the tax incentives from this project compare to what other cities have given them, if any?
I'll ask Mr. Miles to come up and talk.
Mayor and Council, thank you. The one thing I did not hit, this is an answer to your question, Councilman Stewart. The one thing I did not hit in my 5 minutes of discussion is you have an economic development policy. The size and scope of our project would lead that to the top tier of that economic incentive. We did not take that top tier. We did not apply for that top tier. We applied for less. How does it compare? Mr. Martin represents almost every city that we do development work in around the metro. Does not do the work of the Port Authority of Kansas City, which is primarily where we have development agreements in the city of Kansas City, Missouri. This would be less. This pilot would be, you would be getting more revenues, the 85%, you would be getting more revenues because of the SID, self-imposed SID, than we've done in Belton recently, that we've done in Liberty twice, most recently, and more than we've been in the Port Authority agreements that we have in Kansas City, Missouri. You would get more revenues on a bigger project plus the SID than we've been getting.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Councilman
It
Stewart?
does, thank you. On to my comment. I like aspects of this project. I think it's going to be great for the school districts if it passes. I live in the Fort Osage School District. I have children that go there. If it does pass, I hope Northpointe, it does everything they say it's going to do. I just have a lot of concerns about what the city gets out of it, and I will be voting no for that reason only. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I called for the vote, Mr. Mayor, and that's been approved, so we need to vote.
Okay.
That vote was just for the motion to postpone. You called the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can call the question now, though.
Never mind. I'll call a question again for a second time.
And
Let's
this is
get
the
moving.
question actually on 22030-2R. Not a motion to postpone, but actually a motion to either approve or not approve the rezoning of that section. If I can, to allow the folks in the audience, we're going to do this 3 more times because there's different plattings or different parts of it. So even though it will seem redundant to you, it's what we have to do in order to go through the process appropriately. So we're going to do this one, and we've got 2 more, if I'm correct, Mr. Norris.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. Could you text my wife on that one? Just, oh, come on, give me a pity laugh. Is it too late for a pity laugh?
No, let's vote.
We need a second on the
Okay.
call of
Second.
question.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes,
Passes.
and the motion is approved. Okay. And if
then-
I'm understanding you, Madam City Clerk, I need to read the next item. Is that correct?
Nope, that takes us back to bill number 22030. We've already read the bill, so we just need to vote.
Okay.
Council,
So another roll call. Thank you.
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. So we know, now go on to the public hearing application discussion for the next section, a rezoning from R6 Single Family Residential, R6/PUD Single Family Residential Planned Unit Development, 0-1 Office Residential and C1 Neighborhood Commercial to PD/PUD Business Park and Planned Unit Development, and to approve a preliminary development plan for property located at 20226 R.D. Mize Road and approximately 2411 South Little Blue Parkway. And this is the discussion for the public hearing. Is that correct? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing.
This is, yeah.
Oh, I apologize, my friend.
problem.
Please go ahead.
Thank you again, Mayor, members of the council. This rezoning and preliminary development plan was considered by Planning Commission on March 22nd of 2022 as well. Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this rezoning and preliminary plan. This rezoning is the property that's north of R.D. Mize, and it's southeast of Little Blue Parkway, going from an R6 PUD in O1 district or Office 1 district to the Business Park PUD. This would be considered kind of the southern portion of the Northpointe development, that part that has necessary road in it. And I have no new information to add.
Thank you. Any discussion on the public hearing? Okay. Hearing none? Pardon me. The public hearing is closed, and Madam City Clerk tells me I must hit the gavel, so I did. Next step on it is, where are we at next, Madam City Clerk?
Bill number 22-031, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 Single Family Residential, District R6 PUD Single Family Residential Planned Unit Development, O1 Office Residential, and District C1 General Commercial to District BP PUD Business Park Planned Unit Development, and approving a preliminary development plan to rezone properties north of R.D. Mize Road and east of Little Blue Parkway in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion. No motion?
Just call the roll.
Just call the roll. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Spears?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda there is a public hearing for application by Northpointe requesting a rezoning from C-2/PUD General Commercial Planned Unit Development to PB/PUD Business Park/Planned Unit Development, and approval of a preliminary development plan for property located at Truman Road, M78 Highway, and Little Blue Parkway. New information only, and this is the public hearing. Any discussion?
Thank you again. This rezoning and preliminary development plan was also considered on March 22nd by the Planning Commission, and they did recommend in favor of approval. This rezoning is for the property that's south of M78 Highway. It's east and west of Little Blue along Truman Road. It's that section that's more likely in the middle of this project, and this is for a Business Park PUD rezoning. and I have no new information to add.
Okay. Members of the council, any discussion? Okay. What do we do next? Yes. Um, Excuse me, Damon. Unfortunately, you can't call a point of order if you're not a member of the chamber. So you've got to be a member of the body. Now, any of these folks right here could call a point of order, but I apologize, you can't. Okay. What's your thoughts?
It's new information on the public hearing. It's not for the public.
Okay.
There's no public comment.
No information, no new information was submitted as part of the public hearing.
Okay.
So there is nothing more to
To
consider at this point right now. Obviously, there will be a discussion here when we get to the ordinance here. Thank
Okay.
you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Where do I go next, Becky?
We were here.
Let me read it.
Oh, no, that's me.
Okay, fire away.
Bill number 22-032, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 PUD Single Family Residential Plan Unit Development, C2 PUD General Commercial Plan Unit Development to District BP PUD Business Park Planned Unit Development, and approving a preliminary development plan for properties around the M78 Highway East Truman Road and the Little Blue Parkway. Second and final reading.
Okay. Any discussion? If I'm correct, this will be the last time I could talk about it, right?
No. No, we have the master development plan coming
Got the
up.
master plan. Okay, I'll wait and hold my comments then. Anyone else? Other discussion? Okay. Call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
No.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Okay. And the next item is,
This is the non-ordinance action items.
okay,
And-
not ordinance action items, and
All of these,
Madam
yes.
Clerk.
Bill number 22-749, a resolution directing the city manager to research local government best practices regarding elected officials, code of ethics, campaign contribution limits, term limits for elected officials, and campaign contribution conflicts of interest, and to provide recommendations for further action related to these items by June 27th, 2022.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Assistant City Manager, can you tell me who asked for this to be put on here?
I can answer that question, my friend. I did.
Okay. Can I ask you some questions? about it?
Absolutely.
Okay, and well, maybe, and then maybe with the city councilor. So I don't really object to any of this stuff.
Mhm.
I guess my concern would be that depending on what the city comes back with, I don't believe, for instance, term limits, that the city council could just say, okay, we now have term limits. Jeremy, could you, chime in on that? Wouldn't that have to go through the charter?
Yes, term limits, if, in order to be enacted, would require a charter change. That's correct.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, I guess, is that ultimately what you're wanting to do with this, or can you explain better?
No, this is a great question. This was actually one of the things that, and I hope, Jeremy, you can guide me on my comments here, but this is something I talked about during the campaign extensively. Is that okay for me to say that and give him the answer to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Councilmember, this is one thing that I campaigned on extensively. Campaign limits for all of us. We have seen, in my opinion, an excessive amount of money given by individuals to council members and members of this body to run for this office that, in my opinion, were excessive. And I think what we need to do as a body is visit that and have that discussion. And one of the things I said when I ran for office was we were going to limit those down to $1,000 per individual per time frame. So it would be you get $1,000 in the primary, $1,000 in the general election. I didn't want to see $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 checks given to members of this council in order to run for this office. I believe it's a city the size that you can walk it. And I was very proud of the fact that I did that and held to that limit, even though that was not one of the things I had to do. I have tremendous concerns about asking them about a code of ethics for elected officials. There's a whole host of things that I can get into that, and I won't spend any of our time on that. But I put this item on the agenda because I wanted to make sure I kept my campaign promises, and I wanted to make sure I kept those campaign promises right away. That's why this is on the agenda, but I am certainly open to all of this body discussing what we should do as a body in order to make sure that we have fair elections, that we have elections that are, that voters, average voters can be heard, and not someone with big contribution limits impacting our elections going forward. So you can tell that I'm a little passionate about that, but I think your question is an excellent question. I would love for you to be at the study sessions to discuss this, to give me your input, and we can certainly discuss it at any time. You know I've reached out to you, and you and I have met on a number of occasions privately and talked on the phone, and I would love to have these discussions about this item too. But this is something that is absolutely very critical to what I want to see our city do, so that we run a city in a more effective manner. And that's why I proposed it. But I am open to all kinds of discussions and all kinds of feedback on this issue.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this is the city manager again. If I could point out, every one of our agenda items comes with a cover sheet. On this particular item, in the section that's labeled background, paragraph 2 states, if adopted, this item would direct city staff to explore best practices among peer cities across the United States relative to these issues. City staff would make recommendations to address these topics. As part of their research, city staff would also suggest how best to implement these proposed recommendations, including changes to the city council rules of procedures, updates to the code of ordinances, and any items that should be considered for inclusion in the city charter by the newly formed charter review committee. So to Councilmember Stewart's question, not only would we be tasked with identifying common or best operating practices, but we would work with legal to identify how those are to be implemented, if things are simply ordinance changes, rule changes, or if those need voter approval for charter changes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Does that help?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Can I just ask one question?
Absolutely.
In terms of the $1,000, just sticking to that,
Right.
The contribution limits, is the idea that no one has the unfair advantage? Okay. So, and I'm not picking on you. But
That is
when
perfectly
you-
okay.
When you came from the state, you
That is
did
correct.
have about $20,000.
That is correct.
What will we do with that to make sure that everyone has the fairness of just campaigning and receiving donations on an even level?
I think that's a great question, and I would love to work with you, Councilmember, on addressing that, because I think it's a great question, and I think we have to have a sense of fairness across the board, and that's a good question. I'm happy to work with you on that. Thank you. Anyone else? Then I think we go vote on that. Is that correct? All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Could I vote no? I'm teasing. Yeah, well, yeah, yes, all right. Thank you very much.
22,
Go ahead.
22-750, a resolution repealing Resolution 6763, which directed the city manager to pursue an external forensic audit of the Staywell Fund.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
Briefly, Mr. Mayor,
Please.
may I address Mr. Norris, the Deputy City Manager? Mr. Norris, you or a member of your staff sit on that council, on that committee. Do I understand that correctly?
We have a few of our staff members that are the liaison to the Staywell Committee, yes.
Okay, so since that ordinance or the resolution was entered and the audit was ordered, has there been a change of opinion within the committee for the need for that?
Yes, sir. We outlined a few questions. I should step back. We asked for feedback from the Staywell Committee about what questions they would like answered from any kind of evaluation or audit. Those questions would be best answered through a performance audit, and that's what we're pursuing right now.
Can you represent to all of us that Staywell is, that is the Staywell Committee's position, that you have solved the issues they're out to solve with the intention of doing a performance audit, not a forensic audit?
Yes, I believe that what we have set out to do addresses all the questions of the Staywell Committee. And if I'm saying that incorrectly, Mike Veet can come up here and hit me in the head real quick.
I don't think I'd offer him that.
He made a move.
Okay, that's all I had. I'll be voting to approve this.
Okay. Any other discussion? With no other discussion, Madam Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Bill number 22-751, a resolution affirming the City Council's intent to refrain from adding the 97-acre former Rockwood Golf Course to the City of Independence Park system and declaring the City Council's intent to further refrain from moving the solar panel park from the property at this time.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
Mr. Assistant City Manager, I just want to make sure I understand the timeline on this. So we approved a resolution to send it to the Parks Department and the PUAB, and then they both voted on that. Was that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the Parks Department voted first, was that correct, or do you know?
The Parks Commission voted
The
first.
Park
yes.
Commission voted first, and then the PUAB followed up. Okay, so my issue comes with the Parks Commission vote. So there was some controversy about this vote that possibly a member who was an advisor member voted on this. Actually, he made the motion and voted, and then the PUAB followed by basically just going along with the Parks Commission voted for. So, Mr. City Councilor, could you give, was it proper for an advisor member of that Parks Commission to vote?
Councilmember, as I have opined previously, City Code Section 109.005 states that the Parks Commission shall consist of 7 members. There was resolution number 5466, which sought to expand the Parks Commission to include 2 advisory members. A resolution is insufficient to amend the city code. And so while that resolution didn't address quorum or voting or anything like that. So I can't tell you what the overall intent was. But my position is that that resolution appointing those 2 advisory members didn't have the ability to expand the Parks Commission from 7 to 9 members. And so it stayed at 7 members, and that those 2 advisory members should not count towards the quorum and should not vote on any matters before that body.
Okay, all right. So with that said, thank you.
Yes.
I've actually spoken with one member of the Parks Commission, and they were not happy with the way this vote went down and the way this one member improperly voted. And I'm not sure who they reached out to, but they have reached out to somebody and asked for another vote on this. And as of right now, from what I understand, they failed to get that. So with all that said, I would like to actually send this, I'm going to make a motion to send this back to the Parks Commission so they can re-vote on it to make sure that everything's proper.
So what I'm hearing you say is you want to make a motion to reconsider this and send it back to the parks so that they can re-vote on it and then give us the recommendation again?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before that happens, I watched that meeting, and that day there was only 6 members present, and it was 3-3, and that's when the advisory role said, well, I'm the tiebreaker, and he voted yes. So it was actually a defeated vote. It should have lost, and he decided to act in his own accord and vote to pass it. So as far as I'm concerned, if he wasn't legally allowed to vote, it should have failed, and that was it. So, Mr. Cover, how would you see that?
My position on this relates to any advisory member's ability to vote on matters before the Parks Commission. My position is that advisory members do not have that ability. So there has not been, at least to my knowledge, a request that they revisit previous issues, but that would be up to the Parks Commission if they wanted to take up previous matters. It doesn't serve to necessarily nullify those votes. It just means that, as I've stated, I don't think it was appropriate for that person to vote on that matter or any other matter before the Parks Commission.
What, Al, where do we stand with that?
That's up to you. I mean, the vote, I'm trying to find,
It was a 3-3 vote, and he injected himself to vote as a tiebreaker. So in my mind, if he's not legally allowed to vote, it should have been defeated.
I wasn't
Mr. Mayor?
present at that meeting. I'll yield to Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker, do you?
Yes, thank you. The resolution that was put forward at the Parks Commission was written in the affirmative, and by that I mean stated that the position of the Parks Commission would be to oppose having the Parks Department pay IPL the $985,000 cost of land acquisition, as well as taking in the park into the system, all of the costs associated with bringing that up to park standards because of the precarious position of the park levy that the Parks and Recreation Department operates off of, as well as the park sales tax. That Park Commission, of course, is an advisory body to the council. So even discounting the advisory members' vote at 3-3, it looks like they locked horns, and the council does have the option of weighing that factor in. But I will tell you, given the park master plan and the budget for the Parks Department, staff's recommendation will remain the same to not translate this into part of our park system.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep. Yes. Councilmember Stewart, you've got a motion on the floor, but you've not received a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion to send this to basically, if I'm hearing this correctly, can you give me your interpretation of what you're hearing?
Yes, this would send this back to the Parks Commission to revote on the resolution that they previously received.
Okay. Is that your intent, Councilmember Stewart?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mr.
We have a
Mayor.
motion and a second. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, for discussion, the Parks Commission re-voting on that issue is actually a red herring in this case, because this resolution asks the council to set policy whether it should ever have been done in the first place. So it doesn't matter what happened at the Parks Commission, because if this gets voted forward, there will be no issue. And if it gets defeated, then it's just still in the same situation it was in before. The issue with this resolution in the beginning, and it still remains, is that we don't own the solar panels. We don't own them. So the Parks Commission has no authority to say, do whatever you want with them. We have a lease, 25-year lease. Mr. Norris, is that correct? 25 years remaining?
30.
We have a 30-year lease for those solar panels to sit exactly where they're at and for us to buy power from them. So this resolution, should it go through, and should the Parks Department come back and say, we want to make a big park out of it, we can't afford to do it anyway. No matter what happens, we can't make this happen. So I don't see the point of sending it to Parks. I don't see the point of anything, but I'll vote for this so that we can end that discussion unless and until we get enough money or have a plan to move the panels.
Okay.
That's it.
Proceed.
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, as a reminder, we do have an option at 2025 to negotiate the future of that, if the city chooses to do so. That was kind of the thrust or the catalyst for this resolution, is there is an option at 2025. So that's why it was put to the parks.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else? Okay. Madam City Clerk, can you remind me of what we're voting on right now?
This is the motion to send this back to the Parks Commission, or
Okay.
to send the resolution they approved back to the Parks Commission.
Okay. Any other further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
No.
Mayor Rowland.
No. Thank you. Any further discussion on the resolution as it stands? Okay, with no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
No.
Steinmeier.
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Okay. And then are we to ordinances now? Okay. Proceed.
Bill number 22-029, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Independence, acting through its municipal utility, Independence Power and Light, and Missouri Network Alliance, DBA Bluebird Network LLC, for pole attachments. This will have no effect on any tax revenues or general revenues. Second and final reading.
Anyone, any discussion? Anyone, any other final discussion? With no discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And please proceed.
Bill number 22-033, an ordinance approving the 2022 to 2026 Consolidated Plan Citizen Participation Plan and fiscal year 2022 to 2023 Annual Action Plan for the CDBG and Home Programs, authorizing applications to the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the CDBG and Home Programs, authorizing execution of a written agreement and acceptance of CDBG and Home Program funds under the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, and making the necessary appropriations. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes.
Bill number 22-034, an ordinance approving a development agreement between Comprehensive Mental Health Services, Inc. and the City of Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes.
Bill number 22-035, an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to do all things necessary for the holding of an election to fill a vacancy on the council for the council member at large, establishing a primary election on August 2nd, 2022, and a general election on November 8th, 2022, providing that the primary election will become the general election if no more than 2 candidates file for this position. Second and final reading.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
just a question for the city clerk. When will packets be available to pick up for this?
They'll be available this evening, so if anyone wants to pick up a packet, I have some on hand.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else, other discussion? Just from my thought on this, if I may, it saddens me to do this. Councilmember Lucy was a friend of mine. I would have loved to have served with her for the next 4 years, and it was always my wish to at least get her to yes one time. And for her not to be here and get that opportunity, that saddens me. But we have an obligation to the voters and the citizens of this city to proceed as the Missouri statutes recommend. And Mr. Norris, do you have any? Just flinched and I caught it, huh?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, my friend. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Please proceed.
Bill number 22-036, an ordinance approving a development agreement between the city and Northpointe Development LLC and authorizing and approving certain actions in connection therewith. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? I didn't talk on this issue earlier, so I'm going to talk on this issue now if this is the final moment of doing it. I ran for mayor to grow the city. There's not going to be any opportunity better than this opportunity to grow our city and move it forward. I know my granddaughter actually drove with my daughter-in-law past these locations this morning and said these will be the areas that will be developed in that area. Is there ever a perfect development? No. Is there ever a perfect ordinance? No. When I was in Jeff City, the question was, is there ever a perfect bill? There never is. There's always pros and cons. I have asked my friends in labor if they were in favor of this. The majority of them said yes, and therefore that was one of my thoughts in making this decision to vote yes today. So it will, in fact, create 4,000 jobs. Estimated revenue or estimated wages plus benefits around $100 million a year when it's fully at full capacity. The jobs for labor union members will be between 30 to 35%. Is there a guarantee on that? No, there's not. Would I like there to be a guarantee? Absolutely. But there are few guarantees in life. It is, in fact, going to create between 5,000 jobs with an annual payroll of $180 million. I misread that earlier. So the project includes 10 million square feet constructed over approximately 15 years. So we're only going to see in our tenure on the council this process start. It has about 1,300 acres total. 20% of those acres will be protected lands. 60% will be total green space. So it will not just be buildings, there will be other things there. As I understand it, Horseshoe Lake is also being, has not been developed, so it will still be there. Infrastructure updates include interim and long-term improvements. The other thing that they're going to do is, if I'm correct, and Mr. Norris correct me on this, is there'll be a job center training that they're going to provide to have employees to train there for current and future, if I'm correct on that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So the economic impact is going to be excessive, or not excessive, but it's going to be impressive. I think it'll be one of the biggest developments this city sees in our lifetime. I'm proud to be on this council with this. Also, there was a good question with regards to TIFs and how that was done. I will, in my opinion, one of the things that I will do on this council, I've already talked to a couple of members on this, is I will make a move to make sure that we as this council never guarantee bonds going forward without a public vote. I am absolutely opposed to 6 or 7 members of our city having the authority to do that without your input from a vote. And I would push very hard to make sure that would happen. I don't know how that will happen. We'll have to talk about that either on the charter or on an ordinance. But us having the power to go ahead and bond and guarantee those bonds going forward, it concerns me greatly. However, there may be some great discussions about that. This project is not like Bass Pro. Bass Pro is much different. We made guarantees there, and it was a TIF. This is a tax abatement, which is completely and absolutely different. And so with that, I'm going to vote yes, but if there's no other discussion, we'll proceed. Seeing no other discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
No.
Steinmeier?
No.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. And can you proceed to first readings, please?
Bill number 22-037, an ordinance authorizing early repayment of the interfund loan from the Water Fund to the Parks and Recreation Improvement Sales Tax Fund for the Farmers Market Project. Bill number 22-038, an ordinance creating section 1.22.022 of the City Code to allow for the collection of a $7 fee as part of court cost on individual municipal court cases for remittance to the statewide court automation fund. Bill number 22-039, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a car wash at 17620 East 39th Street in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-040, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 19321, creating a charter amendment advisory board.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, we're just on the information purposes only, is that correct? And do I read those or do you read those?
They're just there for information. No one has to read them,
Okay.
unless you want to.
Nope. And so now we're to council members' comments. Any council members have any discussions they want to talk about?
Mr. Mayor?
Proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to just say that we have a new member of our staff. We have a management analyst, Mr. Eric Green. So give a wave. So we've been waiting for you for 2 years. Glad you could come here.
Yes. That's right.
Just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Councilmember. Anyone else? Other comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Proceed.
That's it. Thank you.
No, I've got one comment I'd like to make. When I ran for mayor, there was a number of things concerned me about our city. And there were some things that have happened that concerned me as a citizen, and then certainly concerned me as a candidate, and then certainly concerned me as I talked door to door. And I'm going to make a commitment to all of you, the members of the council and the citizens in this city. I'm going to ask the question, or I'm going to make this statement at the end of every city council meeting. I was sitting next to a very wise man one time on a plane, and I said, who's the best CEO I've ever seen? He said, Alan Malawi, who ran Ford during the financial crisis. And I said, why was he so good? And he said, Alan Malawi never had a meeting where he didn't make this statement, and I'm going to take that statement and use it every time from this dais. I think we've had issues that have arisen in this city because things have happened, and we should have been aware of those things. So I'm going to say from this dais, every time we close a meeting, we cannot manage a secret. If you as a citizen know of something, if you as a city employee know of something, if you as a council member know of something, bring it to our attention. This city does not need any more things like that. And I want to make sure that you let me know that we can't not manage a secret. And I pledge that to you, and I pledge that to the council members that I'm going to make that statement every time. Anyway, with that being said, we are adjourned. Oh. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We are adjourned.